With screening as a highly sort of focused population activity, and it's important that we have an understanding from Newcastle to Plymouth about how that's going to be implemented. The map of medicine has enabled us to focus on the key parts of that pathway from when we even before the baby's born, but how we get information to women, how they understand what the screen is about, and then what happens after that screen. With children that are identified as having a hearing problem maybe at that stage, then clearly they have to have more assessments for their children. There has to be some diagnostic assessment and then support for the family, and that's helped us define what that might be and enable people from a local perspective, if they're running a service in Cornwall, which is quite a rural sort of place, to adapt how they do things. So that it's best for their population compared to Tower Hamlets in London, where you've got an entirely different set of difficulties in terms of how you would make that organisation. So for us, it's been quite a unifying thing, bringing people together, because you have to say what's important to you, what are the key things, and where can we be flexible. Within newborn hearing screening, we've got a large number of professionals, maybe 15 or 16 that I often talk about, but there's many others as well. So it's important that they all have a view of what's happening, and that we eventually come to a place where each of those individuals can help the family and child without having to get them to repeat their story, without going through large amount of old information, so they can bring their specialist skills to bear as rapidly as possible, and I think the map will enable us to do that.
So you'd almost describe it as a tool in overcoming the patchiness that we sometimes hear about in the NHS nationally? Yeah,
I mean there is a huge variability sometimes in the way that services are delivered. You like to hope that services that you work with are uniform across the country, but from my experience of auditing lots of services in the UK, I know how the distribution of quality can often be uneven for reasons that aren't necessarily the fault of those particular locales or whatever. But what it should enable us to do is to uniformly bring up the quality of what people do.
So how do you see it making a difference to your patients?
In making a difference to how particularly young deaf children and their families, I would think it works in two ways. Firstly, that whether they're in the West Midlands or whether in London, there is a uniform expectation about what those services can deliver. But I think secondly, it has to be, there are lots of difficult choices that parents have to make along the sort of management route, and really something like this can give them the up-to-date professional information, medical, social, educational information, and I think that will enable them to be the best advocates for their children.
There are many within the health service who feel that another electronic network may be the straw that breaks the camel's back. There have been poor experiences, along the way with electronic networks. What would you say to people within the health service to convince them that the map is something worth spending time over?
The map of medicine has a very strong vision of where the future for healthcare can be. It also is very realistic in working through the constraints that people have, both in terms of time and in terms of money. So I think it can be a very powerful force for going in that direction.
Professor Adrian Davies, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.